10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is exactly why the Israelites have to be black. Mizraim comes from the man, Ham, so does Cush. Cush is black, which means Mizraim is black. Mizraim is the progenitor of the ancient Egyptians. The Israelites were constantly mistaken for Egyptians. This makes all the Israelites black. We have proven it all the way from Adam and Eve, and worked our way down to the Israelites, and gone tribe by tribe. We have found 5 instances where the Israelites and the Egyptians are confirmed to look extremely similar. The Israelites were black. This is how you logically prove the Israelites are dark-skinned. So why do churches not teach us this? Comment truth if you agree. Find out more biblical knowledge with Israelite Bot. Link in bio.
Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back. Beloved, this is indeed your brother Big VJ. Check it in. Today's conversation, we're going to talk religion. Jewish biblical texts. We're going to use the British translation, right? That's what they call the King James Version. That's the version, beloved, that our people, the original man and woman in the hills of North America, in the territory that we call the United States, right? That is the version that we accept the most. So we're going to be doing that today. Our discussion is going to be based around the Bible being Black history, right? And this is going to be a part 2, because we had this conversation maybe like a week ago, where we showed and proved that no, beloved, in no shape, form, or fashion are we Semites or Israelites or whatever else, whatever those Semitic tribes that you want to be, because you'll wake up tomorrow and say you're Jordanian, or you're a Palestinian, or you from you Iranian, whatever you feel like you want to wake up and be. No, we're going to push back on that, and we're going to show and prove through the information that they have already put out. We're just going to read it the way that it is. But look, let me say this though, because I'm going to just really take my time and cover a lot of things today, but I just gotta do it this way. I gotta start off with this first. It is okay to love yourself. Yet, you got to know yourself to love yourself. You got to know yourself to love yourself. Because the more you know about you, you're not going to do anything, beloved, but love more of yourself. Because you love yourself already. And you don't know much about yourself and you love yourself. Just imagine when you discover more about yourself, you're going to fall deeper in love with yourself. But when you do know yourself, though, beloved, you'll know others. Because you would say, okay, because this is the line you're going to put in the sand. You're going to say, this is me. And being that you know this is me, now I can see, oh no, the difference between me and him is this, right? This platform, we can't be bought. We're not like bought Negroes. You can't buy us. And what I mean you can't buy us is that, like, we understand that everything is true in literature. Like, we get it. We see a lot of our people, they're Muslims, they're Christians, they're Hebrew Israelites. We get it because they are kind of trapped up in the literature. Their soul, their mind is wrapped around literature. And what we are trying to do, beloved, is point to you who the author of that literature is. And it's not no being out of the sky. The man wrote it that you're looking up to. He playing a tricky game on you. He's a trickster. We're going to talk a lot about that today. But the man is a trickster. So he got you in literature But he's the author of the literature he got your mind wrapped up in. Don't try to pull no spin on us and pull us into this sunken place because you in it, because he promised you what you heaven in the end. The realest thing about life is this. If you don't get nothing out of this podcast, if you don't even get nothing out of this conversation, just remember and always know this. Center yourself around this one truth. There's two things the human ain't gonna never know, beloved. One is where we come from, and two is where we going. If you ever meet a human being that act like they know where we come from and they know where we going, they finna manipulate you. No human being, that's the secret. That's the essence of life, is wrapped in those two secrets. We don't know where we came from. And guess what? When you go beyond the grave, nobody don't know, beloved. The minute you fall for one of those two tricks or both those tricks, you're going to be in the trick bag with the rest of them. I don't care how much Deacon Brown, you know what I'm saying, Pastor Porkchop and First Lady Collard Green, how much they keep kicking a Jew heaven every Sunday and all of this and all of that, they don't know. They believe it to be true, but no human knows what's on the other side of the grave. Nobody knows. So what you are doing is submitting yourself to a concept. Jews, through biblical texts, along with Christians, along with Muslims in the Quran, they have philosophy in trying to answer those two questions about our existence. And when you read these so-called holy books, they're just really, it's a lot in it now. It's mythology, it's mysticism, it's allegory, it's a racial allegory connected to it as well. But it's like it's signs, it's symbols. They're trying to answer the question that's inside of every human being because we don't know. But we have to be comfortable in that secret that we do not know where we came from, and we do not know as humans where we're going. Nobody will never know. So when somebody hit the ground, don't you be the silly one with the semi-brain, you know, talk, oh, is this person going to heaven? Or this person, this person going to hell? The original people, we never thought that way. See, I'm going to give you this game because we're going to talk about the Bible is Black history, right? But I got to give you this game first. Because when I start talking religion, I don't want to offend anybody. It's not about me offending you. Because you, my brother, I know your nature. I'm trying to show you the author of the book of the people that you're following. It's a man. There's no God anywhere wrote any book. It never happened. They're playing a spin game on you. That's why they tell you when you read these so-called holy books, they say it is inspired by God. That was like one of the first tricks. They never showed you the God to begin with. So who cares if they show you something that's inspired by God? Tell them to show you the God first. They're never going to show you the God. It's always them talking, writing. This is them. Message. You got to wake up and say, because you're the oldest people of the planet. Why are you following babies of the planet? That's the master manipulators. Nobody know what happens beyond the grave, beloved. And if you feel like you know, I feel sorry for you because nobody knows. That is the secret of our existence as humans. We will never know where we came from. We will never, ever know where we're going, beloved. But here's the play on that. See, in literature, somebody can die and come back, and they can die and come back, and animals and snakes and everything can talk. And there's heavens in literature, and there's hells in literature. And our existence in reality, that does not exist. It's not real. It's not real. So they use the tool of religion to keep us down as slaves and servants. but you got to be able to see it. Hell and heaven is a Semite concept that is written in literature that you subscribe to. But here's what's interesting about that, because this is the point I was going to make earlier. We got to have more sense than a cockroach, because we just got this one life. All is the mind, beloved, and the universe is mental. We are the supreme mind of the planet. Being that we got the supreme mind, we have to have at least more sense than a cockroach now. The cockroach know you only got one life. You turn that light on, you in the kitchen, you in the hallway, you in the bedroom, that roach get to running. Do you know why? He knows if you step on him, it's over with. The lights is out. He don't have a cockroach heaven in the sky that he gonna go to somewhere. He don't have it.
Message.
Because Semites are people of war, right? They're warring people. The so-called white man is a warring man. The first concept of heaven and hell was created by the powers that be to put the battery in the back of those that served in the military, because they are warring people. This was a trick to get the soldiers out on the battlefield, because what soldier is going to do killing and battle? And if they know if they get killed, they gone. There's like, nah, they not going to. But what happened is Semites come up with okay, they telling the soldiers now, if you die, don't worry about it. You're not going to lose your life. You're going to go in some heaven somewhere. They were the first casualty of truth. Then that later spread down to the villages and countryside. But the original man never believed that, because we saw God concept like God living everything. God living the humans, the animals, the plants, the trees. We seen the existence of life, of God, of power and force in a righteous format in everything. Not in some chosen people and all this old trickery. We're going to talk about some trickery today. All I'm saying, beloved, is wake up. Everything is true in literature. Wake up. Use your brain. Know your nature. Freedom, justice, equality, peace, and love. And when you are centered around your nature, when you start reading these stories, it's not going to mesh. When they start telling you Abraham, listen to what they've been telling you. The Bible is Black history. All right, we're going to get to that. But look, I just got to get this off my chest now. Because we got to wake up. You know, the Semites look at Abraham as a righteous man. Do you? Do you look at Abram, which changed to Abraham, like he's a righteous man? Nah, they didn't give you this hell story and you trying to make it to heaven. So you're just trained. You're gonna get along. You're gonna go along to get along gang now, because you're in fear that if you just tap into your true essence and say, that's not a righteous act, these are not righteous people, you gonna miss heaven. But your brother is here to tell you what heaven lives in the book. You in reality. In that literature, it's heaven is real in the book. They need your mind wrapped around in that book so they can control you. But look, let me just go back to the question. Abraham is a righteous man. How? What did he do that made him righteous? I'm talking about you waited up to your nature. He had a wife. The wife was barren, right? So he had a slave. That wasn't a red flag for you, because you trying to make it to heaven. So he had a slave woman who was a black woman. He impregnated her. Things took a left turn. He put the woman out and the child. That's a righteous act to you? If your uncle did it, what would you say if your uncle did it? The truth is always in mathematics. If it's right for this person to do it, it's right for this person to do it. But you are so I call it like they got cameltosis. Like you are following these camel riders, these sandal wearers, you know, these shepherd goat kind of like people that you allow them psychologically to get away with something that you wouldn't let somebody in your own family get away with. If I just changed the name for real, if I just said Muhammad did it, I can give you the same thing that Abraham did or David did or Isaac did. But if you like a Jew or a Christian, you'll go along with it. But if I just took the names off and said, well, Muhammad did it, you would look at it totally different because that's what you in religious gangbanging, you set tripping. But look, I got to go back to the story. He throwed his child out with his baby mama out. Okay, it's what it is. Then we talking Abram still. And I don't want to be disrespectful. The way that he kind of got rich, because they talk about the Bible as black history, it's kind of like tricky now. It's kind of like, and I don't want to be disrespectful, like it's a little pimpish. Like how Abram even got rich. It's like he played this game with his wife that these black men in these city kingdoms, they wanted this old lady so bad, Sarah. Now she almost 100 years old. She must have been the smokingest Semite woman, almost 100. But it was like this is an interesting play how she would go into these powerful men households, and then she supposedly didn't do nothing. She'd come back out because Yahweh is scared a person in a dream or something. Like this is when you see they running the trick already, and then the woman to come back out, and then you know the powerful black king or person in rulership that's over the city kingdom kind of like space, he'd give Abram gold and money and animal. It's like a little play that they was running. Like that's how he really came up. Then he get this son of promise. Then the deity comes to him. We still talking Abraham, and then he like, okay, he finna tie little man up, put some good fire on him. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm like, bro, you reading these stories? The Bible is black history. You want to be them kind of people? Okay, let's keep going with the story. He have a son named Isaac. Isaac run off and marry one of his cousins. Okay, Isaac has some children, and Esau and Jacob and Isaac on his deathbed, right? This is the Bible, this black history. Isaac on his deathbed, and instead of them like embracing and loving they pops on his, he finna check up out of here, they too busy like running a play, you know. Look, they finna run a play on buddy. So they can get the blessing and all this and all of that. Okay, they get the blessing. The mama in on the whole hustle, the whole nine. These some trickster kind of like people. So then you see Jacob, who name is trickster, supplanter. Them people was truth to their name now. He runs off and he got a burning lust. He working for his uncle, and all the women in that city, that location, that community he was in. But guess who he got his eyes on? He got a burning lust and desire to rock with his own cousin. But they're all Semites. They're all tricksters. So you can see he run, you know, him and his mama trick daddy and trick the brother. He run over his uncle, but it's all in the bloodline. So his uncle a trickster too. So he gives him one of the daughters. He fakes him out. He beats him for 7 years and he gets the other. But he's running behind his first cousins. The Bible is black history. Why y'all look up to these people so much? Why y'all, I mean, I'm like, that sound like the weirdest stories. Lot is a righteous man. Lot? An angry mob of homosexuals is fighting to get to some men. And know what the remedy was for Lot? He's a Semite. He got some virgin daughters. Y'all can have your way. He finna let them diddy his virgin daughter. he finna diddy his virgin daughters. And then so it don't work out. They run out in the mountains. He banged both of them. Oh, he was drunk. Bro, look. Because many of us is from the neighborhood. Man, we done drunk all kind of Schlitz and Coke 45s and 40 ounces. What you took a bag of liquor to the mountain with you? Y'all was on the run. How do you knock down both your daughters and impregnate them and this, that, and the third? But that's okay. Because there's some Negroes in the village. They want to get to Jew heaven so bad that you can give them weird stories of men that we know these folks ain't right. He diddied his daughters. He went up in a mountain and diddied both of his daughters. He blamed it on the alcohol. He was a what's that artist that sing that song? Blame it on this, blame it on that, blame it on the alcohol. Some people don't even give you no righteous literature. Let's take a look at today's conversation. Well, I can do that all day. Man, y'all better wake up. Y'all gotta wake up. Look, well, I gotta say this. Man, it is a beautiful thing to be a man of a certain age. Because I can remember when we even coming out of the plantation now, just 80s and the 90s, we was in love with just a form of ourselves. We was very Afrocentric. And I can remember the time where we had these African medallions on. I'm going way back, beloved. We're talking about late 80s. We used to rock these African medallions. And listen, one of the most prized possessions in jewelry at the time was a Nefertiti chain. I want you to consider that. The black man was so in love with the black woman, we used to put her on our neck and walk around with her. And you dig what I'm saying? And we was representing the black woman, the black queen, the goddess of Mother Earth. Then there was a strong push for hip hop. And you know, the Hymies is behind hip hop. And you start to see a different kind of symbolism coming out of our people. And it was like, at this point, the original man and woman in the hills of North America, in the territory that we call the United States, became like Jew lovers. Like real deep and intense Jew lovers, where we got rid of the African medallion and we got rid of the Pharaoh's head and we got rid of the Nefertiti charm and we used to rock beads and we traded it all in for a Jesus piece. We traded it all in for a crucifix. I was in the mix. I was one of the ones too. Cause this is what we seen artists pushing, crucifixes and Jesus pieces. Bro, we used to go down to the tattoo spot and we used to get crosses and all this stuff kind of tattooed on us. But just think how it just turned so fast where we begin to really look up to these people. Man, that's cold, man. I was there to see it, beloved. I was there from the very beginning. I seen the turn. Now, you can't get a black man to, because he been Judified now. He full of camatosis. You couldn't get us to wear an African medallion no more. You couldn't get us to wear like anything that represents Kemet or any, because there's spookism involved now. So anything that's tied into black legacy, black lineage, I couldn't bring you no symbolism from the Mayan civilization, because you're gonna look at it like wickedness and it's evil and your brain is gone. In other words, I'm saying these people strategically figured out a way to put a Jew over you in your psychosis. Because, beloved, if we tell the real truth, right, peace be upon them, we had a Caribbean brother, Tony Martin. He gave us a game. It's a book called The Jewish Onslaught. He gave us the game. He taught us who was really behind these ships and who was really behind the plantations, for real, who was really financing it. And then what happened was, you know, they have slicked you to look up to Jewish people all of the time. You want to get to a Jew heaven. If somebody asks the black man and the black woman, what and where is a holy land, they're going to say Israel in the Middle East. Then if they don't have a Christian Negro concept, they got a Hebrew Israelite concept, but Jehovah is still the God of the Jews. He's still in your mind. You'll never be free. Okay, so this is where they got us at right now, underneath complete destruction. We got 3 English names. We speak English, but our soul belongs to the Jew. Our mind belongs to the Jew. And now we want our afterlife to belong to the Jew because we want to get the Jew heaven.
Message.
And we are so deep in this psychosis. If you bring us anything black, we gonna have a Jew POV about it. It's evil, it's wicked, it's wrong. Why? Because look, I got the Jew literature. It says it's wrong here. What? Man, them folks seeing you coming and going, beloved. Hey, man, them folks seeing you coming and going. Let's take a look and see what we got. We're going to go over some characters today. You understand? And just know, beloved, I'm speaking to you as an original man. You know what I mean? I'm speaking to you as your brother. I'm speaking to you from my nature to your nature, which is the same: freedom, justice, equality, peace, and love. And all I'm asking of you is that when you hear stories, you think about you, and you think about your family, and you think about mathematically, how would you judge that? How would you range that? If you would call it wrong, if it happened in your own household, I need you to be honest with myself and honest with yourself and the rest of us in the village and say, no, that's not proper to do that. Because see, you looking up to Jacob, he's a trickster, and you want to be a child of Jacob. You're becoming tricksters now. Because I'm going to show you certain things, even in this text, you're manipulating to try to make you be one of them. But listen though, I mean, a man that chased his uncle's daughters, would you chase your, I be thinking like, would you chase your uncle's daughters, bro? If you know you won't do that, why would you look up to people that constantly did this weird kind of stuff, bro? This weird kind of stuff, sis. It just, maybe I'm different. It don't really make sense to me. But listen, I'm not trying to get anything out of it, so I can just keep it what it is. I'm going to speak on it. I'm going to keep it. It's going to be right and exact when I talk about it. I'm not looking to gain from nothing. The problem with a Negro is a Negro can be bought. And that's one of the ills, psychological ills that we have coming out of the plantation, that when they put us on that auction and you can be bought, you know, we turned that, which is a low point, and we made it a positive point. Oh man, Master Williams, he paid $1,200 for me. How much he paid for you? And we wore that being purchased like cattle, like a badge. That became, unfortunately, a part of our, so you've been bought again. They just paid for you through the ideal of a Jew heaven. And you in such fear that you want to go to Jew heaven so bad. Not a Ghanaian heaven. Not a Bolivian heaven. Not a Mexican heaven. The black man don't want to wake up and he can't even see himself in a Mexican heaven. No way, Jose. He wants to go to a Jew heaven. All right, let's take a look at Adam and Esau and David and Solomon. You know, when I made the last episode about the Bible being Black history, I felt as though there was some meat we left on the bone, because we could have just started with the first man. I think it would have made it a lot easier if we started this series, because we're going to do our best to do more of these episodes with just breaking down the first man, Adam, right? We talked about the son of Mary. And look, let me say this while it's on my mind, because the son of Mary is recognized as the second Adam. The Bible is Black history. It's what the Hebrew Israelite community is saying, right? Dig that. And they got some Christian brothers following them as well. When you look at the description of the son of Mary that's given in Revelations, right, to the part that 99.9% of the Hebrew Israelite and the Nation of Islam community and the Black Christian community is going to overlook, that's kicking this son of Mary, is the black man information. The part that they always overlook is when it says in the verse that his head was white like wool. How come we just keep skipping that part? It's in the text. Because our people, the book that we subscribe to the most is the British version. We like the King James version, right? Okay. In the King James version, it says clearly that his head was white like wool.
Message.
My only question to you, beloved, is, and I'm not trying to shatter your faith or your belief or anything. I'm just showing you what the text say. And I'm just saying, like, bro, and I'm saying, like, sis, I've been in the village all my life. I never seen an original man that was in his 30s that have a white head and he have white hairs on top of his head. I haven't seen it. In my estimate, that'd be like an albus person or an albino person. And the issue with us as far as education is concerned is that, see, the original man and woman only thinks that black seed people can have albino children, and that's not right and exact. No, that's not right and exact, beloved. All ethnicities, East Indians, Pakistanis, Arabs, everybody can have an albino child. I have a photo of a man that's look like he's late 20s, early 30s. I'm going to put him on the screen. His head and his hair is white like wool. And take a guess, beloved, he don't look like us.
Message.
We broke it down on the last episode that this whole idea about the Son of Man running to Egypt to hide as a child, Egypt was no longer Black Egypt at that time. Really, the story, I don't want to poke holes in that story because Rome controlled all that area anyway. You couldn't, but that's a different story for a different day. The people that was there though, the Black Egyptians was already gone, pushed down to the south, because we know that the Persians invaded, and then the Greeks invaded, and after that the Romans invaded. So the people group, but listen, how come this information is not spoke about when these brothers are on the corners of the inner city? It's totally left out. Let's do Adam. Let's go to the first man. And all we are going to need in today's conversation is we're going to use a dictionary, like a regular dictionary, nothing fancy. And all we're going to need is strong concordance, because we're going to give the numbers that's associated with the strong concordance of the definition of the words. Any map would do. Any map that was made after the 1600s would do. Because there were name of lands that have changed, but we're going to talk about those locations in today, where they would be at today, because later down the line we're going to show you where the Jews lived at. Not according to VJ. We're going to use that book that you walk around with, that you declare, beloved, is the word of God. Okay, so the term that I want to go over first, because we're going to talk about Adam, the term I want to go over is ruddy. R-U-D-D-Y. Ruddy. I want you to use a dictionary and get the definition of that word. And I'm going to show you that word in context, right? Now, beloved, if you kind of like in podcast land and you can't see this video, that's cool. I'm going to just show you, I'm going to tell you what I'm reading, but those that's looking at it on a video format can see what I'm reading. And I'm going to read something from Beaton's Dictionary of Universal Information, right? This is about geography, biology, and history. You dig? This is by George Emerson is the source I'm going to read. And all I'm going to do is just show you a mythological character, the definition that is connected to him. And his name is Pan, right? I'm just going to read his definition, but we're going to start off everything by centering this piece of the conversation around the word ruddy, because we got to get a foundation first about what, pardon me, beloved, ruddy means. Not what it means from an ISUPK guy that's sitting on the corner of Baltimore. He made up his own definition. Not what ruddy means from a IUIC guy that's in Detroit or Cleveland that made up his own definition. We're going to go to the English speaking people and show how they use the word ruddy in conversation and in context. Because this is the culture that this word come from. This is a part of, that's why they say sometimes, beloved, some things can get lost in translation. Because what Israelites is calling something, when the British government was translating it, right? Because you got Greek and you got a little bit of Aramaic, but mostly Hebrew writings when you talk about the first covenant. When they have a word, because their words are like symbols. And when it's being translated over, the British, the English vocabulary, they have to choose a word that closely fits what the Israelites was talking about, what the Hebrews was talking about. When the Israelites is writing about Adam, when the British was translating that, they attached the word ruddy to Adam as an adjective to describe Adam. Because they're translating, this is the word that closely resembles what these people are talking about. You dig? Okay. Pan in Greek mythology, the god of shepherds, of huntsmen, and all of the inhabitants of the country. He was the son of Mercury according to Homer. Pan, however, was a monster in appearance. He had 2 small horns on his head. His complexion was ruddy, his nose flat, and his legs, thighs, tail, and feet were those of a goat. Okay, beloved, let's stop. That's the imagery that we see in today in the occult. The image of Pan, the nose, the legs, the thighs, the tail, and feet, got the goat bottom and all that. Okay, but in mythology, I wanted to point out that when the Europeans use this term ruddy, they're talking about a specific kind of like complexion. All I'm asking you, beloved, is to Google Pan, Greek mythology, and I want you just to go to the images. Because there's a certain kind of complexion that's associated with ruddy. Now, in that instance, even when they talk in mythology, that ruddy complexion, we as original people will call that a white man. That's what a so-called white man, he's a ruddy guy. But don't take my word for it. We just talking. I want you to look it up yourself. Google images, right? All right, so let me go to another source where the term ruddy was used at. And we're going to go to right around, let me get this up here. Let's see. We're going to go back to 1862. We're going to go to the United States military. Private Layman Hale was identified as having blue eyes, light hair, ruddy complexion, 5'7.5", yada yada yada. But look at the photo of Private Hale. He has a ruddy complexion, and United States military used this term a lot in the 1800s. And every person that they identified as a ruddy complexion male, these males, these people we would call so-called white people. Look at Private Hale. How would you classify this ruddy man, this ruddy complexion man? Okay, so now we got ruddy in the context of mythology, and now we got ruddy in the context of a soldier. All right, let's take a look at this doctor. Let me get this other one pulled up. If you can see the video, it's cool. If not, we're talking. I'm having a conversation. I'm explaining. The photo that I have up on the screen now is of a man named Dr. Jim Nordlands, right? And it's highlighted right there in front of you. He has a ruddy complexion and a grayish white hair, and he got the bow tie, and he got the bushy handlebar mustache, right? Okay, but look at Dr. Jim. Ruddy complexion. What would you call that man, beloved? I call him a so-called white man. He's a pale man. So, okay, because the Hebrews say, what did they say? Something like, you had to have at least 3 witnesses, right? No, I'm just talking, but they do say that though. But look, what I did though, I brought out 3 different examples of the word ruddy, the image of ruddy, and the definition behind it. We will call that, beloved, a so-called white man. Now I want to go to the Strong's Concordance, right? I want to go to Strong's, and this is on Bible Hub. You can look it up yourself. BibleHub.com/Hebrew/119.htm is what I'm underneath. And 119 is Adam. You see the transliteration, you see the pronunciation, you see the phonetic spelling. But what does it say in the NASB? Dyed red. Red. Ruddy. But let's look at the origin, because the origin says something very interesting. This is the origin of the word Adam. 119. And the origin is to show blood in the face, flush or turn rosy. Look right underneath that. It says what? To be, dyed, made, red, ruddy. Now let's stop. How many of us ever read that in the Strong Concordance? How many of us read when we seen Adam? We knew that Adam meant to show blood in the face. That's the origin. Original man, original woman, let me ask you this. Do your blood show through your face? It doesn't. You have a darker hue. You more melanated. You don't. But the people that we see that show blood in the face is what we would call the so-called white man. See, I don't want to go down this. I'm not going to go down this road right now. You dig? But I will just put this out there. This whole idea that the so-called white man is perpetuating nowadays, that all human beings come from Adam, that's recent. That's not no ancient teaching to him. That's recent. You can go back yourself. You can go back to the 1800s and the 1700s yourself, and you will look and you will see that he taught that Adam was the father of the white man. He was the father of the white races, not everybody. That's some new stuff they put on. It's just they remix the technology up for you. They get it real nice and comfortable for you, right? But you go back though, listen though, man, that's not really. I throw a number out there. It's about a 200-year-old teaching that all people come from Adam. White folks don't used to teach that. I give you another gem. Christian didn't mean everybody at first. You go back and look at your slave codes. Christian meant white, and white meant Christian. It was synonymous with each other. It wasn't what you call it today, like all you Negroes can be Christians now, and you Indians and East Indians and West Indians and Jamaicans and Puerto Ricans and Mexicans, all you can be Christians now. It wasn't like that in the beginning. They remixed it up for you. You go back and look at those old reverends that came out of Britain and that was in the Americas. And Adam was the father of the white races. And they will call us pre-Adamites. It's in the literature. Then later, they made the all people come from Adam kind of like doctrine. They made that mainstream, but in their secret circles, in their secret fraternities, in their secret organizations, that was what they used to kick amongst themselves. They were Adamites, you wasn't. Maybe that's a different story for a different day. How many people knew this though? Adam was a ruddy man. Adam meant ruddy. Adam meant died. Okay, now let me kick it to you like this. Adam came when in a Jewish biblical text? Adam came in Genesis 2. Genesis 1, it's they're doing something there, but you have to read it to catch it. When you see Genesis 1, because the real terms behind this God and all this and all that is really Elohim. So when you go through Genesis 1, you see that the Elohim, this is the general sense. The Elohim made the human being, male and female, he both made them. They was made simultaneously on a certain kind of time, on a certain kind of day, right? And then look at how everything was positioned and created, Genesis 1. Then you start to see another term come Genesis 2. And Genesis 2, you see the maker moving because everything is being made. Nothing is being created no more. See, the game that they run on you is you don't know the difference between that which is made and that which is created. But beloved, we were taught that's not the same thing. Creation is something that you will from an invisible space. You coming out of the mind, out of the supreme mind, and you willing it from the unseen to the seen world, but you building it from scratch, from the atom, from the atom, all the way up to the finished product. That's when you create something. There's no prototype for it. There's no blueprint for it. You created it. Then there's something called a made man. Adam, beloved, will fall underneath a made man. He was made. The ingredients was already on the planet. The dust, which is the poor part of the planet Earth, all of that was already. He just made the man out the ground. He formed him. Then Hebrew. This is key. Yahweh blew his essence into Adam. Okay, what is the essence that Yahweh blew into Adam? You have to read about the activity and the behavior of Yahweh to see what the Adam gonna be, because he blew into him. So now I got to go back to this. Was Adam the first being, intelligent being that Yahweh made on the planet? No, because we can see what the Nakash had intelligence. That's what they call the serpent. The serpent was an intelligent being. Not only was he intelligent, he was there in the earth before Adam got here. But listen, the book also says something else. It says the serpent was more subtle than the other beasts, which is living creatures, breathing creatures. He was more subtle than any other beast in the field. Subtle means he was a trickster. But you can't miss the word more, because more is a mathematical word. More means the rest of the living creatures that Yahweh made, they're tricksters too. But the snake was more of a trickster. He was more subtle than the rest of the living creatures that Yahweh made. See, it's a pattern being made here. You're missing the whole pattern. Because you're trying to be something you ain't. You're missing the pattern. But we caught it. You missed it. We caught it. Yahweh made these beings. Then he made the Adam. Right? No mother, no nothing. He made the Adam. Okay. He blew breath into the Adam. Then what happens? He get the wife. Okay, we read the story a bunch of times. then they they what they call they fall from grace. All right, I gotta stop. I gotta talk to my Christian brothers and sisters about this point now. Adam was made as a common sort. No, I ain't got to tell you. Let me show you. Let's go back to the Strongs. Let's go to we at 119. Let's go to 120. Right? Let's go to 120 Strongs. And let's go to the right where you see at the beginning it says Adam, man, mankind, human, Adam. Go down to the KJV where it says X another plus hypocrite plus common sort plus X low plus man plus mean of what low degree a person. Let's talk about that. Adam was made to till the ground. He was placed in the east of Eden to till the ground, like he was a servant kind of like guy. This whole the world is gonna be his and he had dominion and all of this is Yahweh seen that there was no man to till the ground, so he had a made man who he blew life in. He was industrious. Now Adam, we gotta give him credit. We gotta give credit. The Adamites are industrious people. We ain't gonna take that. We can't take that from them. But you just look at him, right? Adam, him and his old lady was tricked by the serpent. And then what later happens? All of them was punished. Yahweh punished the serpent, punished the woman, and he punished the man, right? So this is the question I always have for the Christians. All three of them was cursed. So how come when you jump to the new gospel, or the new covenant, I should say, and then the Christians have this story about how Satan, or the devil, he takes the son of Mary up to a high mountain, right? And he got up over the high mountain and he's showing him, he's showing the son of Mary the kingdoms of the world. And he's saying, yo, if you bow down to me and worship me, I can give all of this to you, because what? It was given to me. This is the devil talking, right? Okay. The question I got for the Christians is, well, when did Yahweh give Satan the kingdoms in the nations of the world? When did that happen? When did that transference take? It didn't take place in no garden. Adam was a common sort. Adam is a tiller. He's a servant. He was made he was industrious. He's still industrious, but he was made as an industrious kind of like people to work on the planet. He never had no kingdoms. He never was in no rulership. He was given rules. He wasn't he didn't have no throne. The devil said all of the kingdoms is his, but if we go back to what the Jews say, even through the Psalms 22, 22nd chapter, 27th verse, and through the rest of the prophets, they say Yahweh owns kingdom and he rules the nations. They say a cattle of 1,000 hills is mine, saith the Lord. Everything is Yahweh's. When did the transference of power take place that the devil got it? See, there's a mystery in that. But we looking for you to see the mystery. When did the transference of power? Because ask the Christian, he got this whole thing. The Christian tell you all the nations, the prince of darkness run everything, and his principalities and all this. And I'm saying, when did that transference of power took place? Because even the prophets, after the fall of Adam, bear witness that Yahweh still he was over all the nations. He was a ruler. Maybe that's a different story for a different day. So let's take a look at Esau. Right? Let's take a look at Esau, right? Look, I'm gonna tell you something. It's be some shots. Sometimes some shots be getting fired. But if you all slaving at the mouth, shouting and falling all along and rolling around, trying to make it to Jew heaven, and you ain't reading, you will miss when sometimes there's some subtle shots that's being fired, right? Listen, I'm gonna tell you something that you miss. You dig? You miss when in literature, Stephen is given a synopsis of how the Israelites came to be. You dig? This is Stephen, right? Because remember, Judas, he's gone. So the Israelites kind of like cast some lots. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you what that means, but I ain't gonna do that right now. They cast some lots and they picked Stephen to be in his place. But Stephen, or Stephen, some say Stephen, he was killed too, right? Okay, but he was in front of some Jewish elite. He was given a story about the history of the Israelites, but he was doing it with a Christian spin. And they later killed him for it. But it was some points he brought up that Reverend Rivdinner and First Lady Collard Green, they don't point out of what really enraged these Jews to kill him. And I'm going to just show you two, right? When Stephen is giving his synopsis of Moses going to get the law, he didn't say Moses got the law from Almighty God, Almighty Elohim, Yahweh himself. He says, this is Stephen word, this ain't mine. He said, Moses got the law from an angel, from a malak. That's just a messenger. That's the first point, right? You missed it, but it's cool. I'm your brother. I'm gonna tell you. Now, you read the story of Moses over and over in the scriptures, and you didn't see no angel. You ain't see no messenger give Moses nothing. You seen Moses went up there and he met with Yahweh. Well, why is Stephen a Christian? Why is he saying Moses got the law and everything from a malak when the Jews saying something different? But it's a mystery in that y'all missing. Okay, now let's go to the second point that Stephen said that incited the Jews to kill him. Stephen made reference that, well, when they was in the desert, he talking about the Israelites. He said, they was walking around with the tent of Molech. These Negroes ain't catching it. He walking around, he talking about the Israelites. He walking around with the tent of Molech. Now, you read this book. You've been raised in the church house all your life. You've been at the Hebrew Israelite. I don't know if them Negroes I don't know if they got a church. They be on the corner a lot. I don't know what they call they place in London. I don't know. Even the Nation of Islam missed this one. So you mean to tell me, because unless Stephan is saying the Israelites got two different histories, what you mean the Israelites was toting around the tent of Molech in the desert for 40 years? We only seen them with one tent. We ain't seen them Israelites with two different tents. They just had the one tent, right? They had the tent with Yahweh tent that Moses never used to rode around. They used to put it outside the camp. Moses used to go see and holler at Yahweh. So unless Stephan is trying to say, well, they was wandering in the wilderness, there was two tents being towed around. We didn't see. We didn't see them two tents being. He could have been talking about that golden calf, because Moses destroyed that golden calf. He grounded it down. He made them people drink it. So he could have been. So what was he? See, it's a mystery in that. Negroes, they don't know what they following. They don't know who they. But the Bible is a black book. Hey, man. You better get to reading. You better see what you following. But maybe that, because we talking about something different. Maybe that, beloved, is a different story for a different day. Esau coming behind Adam, because we talking about the same line, but I want to jump a little bit to Esau. I want to go to David. I want to go to Solomon, because Esau was also called a red man. And our Hebrew Israelite brothers play this game that Esau is a white man. Okay. I'm with you, bro. I can see where you're going with that. I'm sitting back and listening, but then they say, no, Jacob is something else. That's when I like, well, wait a minute. Because, see, they got the same parents. Even though they give this Esau kind of like, they give you like a Bigfoot imagery. Really, that's what they're doing. They're giving you Bigfoot. I can say something. I'm not going to say nothing about that because I don't want to lose my train of thought. Esau was like a hairy garment. He was all red though. Not like regular hair. When his mom and his brother was playing the trickster game, they had to put like real bushes and leaves on his Jacob's body so they can fool their dying dad out of a blessing. They mean he couldn't have been like no normal. But that's okay, because y'all like these people, y'all follow these stories, I get it. The mom and dad is the same mom and dad. They didn't have a different mom and dad. Even though they were going to be the father of two different nations, brothers often run two different nations anyway. They always going to be, even if they're in the same kingdom, they still going to be runners of two different nations. We see that clearly with the European. The home base can be England, but this man is running United States. This man is running and keeping power over Jamaica. This man is running the islands. This man is down in South America, but it's still one kingdom, but they run in different nations, different story for different day. We see this red though, beloved, come up again. Dyed red. Edom means red. You think they talking about some real red people? No. Red because of what? The blood is showing through the face. Have you ever seen a so-called white man get a sunburn? Let me tell you something that's cold. That man is pale on the outside. When the sun is hitting his skin, it's heating up the inside. He's getting hot. The skin is getting hot. So, of course, it's acting like a conduit. Now it's heating up the blood. The blood shows so much through the skin. You can see him. He's all red. He's ruddy. They don't call us ruddy. He's ruddy. How is this a black book? How is the Bible black history? How? Because some Semites went down to Egypt and hung out there and intermingled with some. Yeah, okay. When they left Egypt, they hung around with some Assyrians and some Babylonians, and then they went underneath some Greek captivity and Roman. Man, these folks been. No, we just can't. No. Even David. 1 Samuel, 16 chapter, 12, 13 verse. You see ruddy again. They've been out of Egypt now. They've been out of Egypt, and on their way out of Egypt, you on a second king. He come right after Saul. This is a ruddy man. Okay, David got his son. His name is Solomon. This is the thing I do not like that the Hebrews do. They misrepresent, in my opinion, the Song of Solomon. They start kicking this Song of Solomon thing. It's a part where the black woman is saying, I am black but beautiful. That's not Solomon talking. That's a song, a love song between a man, a Semite man, and a woman that's a black woman. If they just went up to the second verse, they would see they are in error. We talking about Song of Solomon. When you go to that verse where it says, I am black but beautiful, just go and start at the beginning of that chapter. Go to the second verse. You tell me what it say, beloved. You tell me what it say. It's clearly a woman speaking. When you get to the 5th chapter, Song of Solomon, when you get to the 5th chapter, 10th verse, it brings out two powerful points. One is they talk about the skin tone of Solomon that we already know he's ruddy, right? We got that part. Then they go on to say that his hair is black like a raven and bushy. Some translations say wavy. If you look at the photos, at the paintings, at the images that they have in Kemet when they were drawing the shepherd-like people, the Semitic people, they made them ruddy complexion, like pale-skinned people. They had the beard with the bushy style hair. They were not like us. It just take you to go to Kemet and look at this whole idea that these Hebrews is being confused with these Kemetic people. No, the black woman always pointed it out. It was the black woman that seen, it was Pharaoh's daughter that seen that Moses, that she seen him he was only 3 months old. She seen him in a little basket rolling through the river. She looks at, it's a Hebrew boy. How come? She can look at him. He's ruddy. The same way that Potiphar's wife did Joseph. She said, this Hebrew boy you brought here came here to mock us. How come it's a difference? They don't look alike. How did the Bible become a black history book? When the origin of the man that everybody is coming from Abram, that changed to Abraham, they coming from his line. Abram left his father's house. His father's house was where? Iraq, Mesopotamia. These the land of Ur. These the land of Semites. Our people, they've been pushed us out. You know, the original man, we was in a lot of these land masses first. Them Semite savages, warriors, and barbarians, they have been came and pushed us out of the way. Look, I even give you this. Man, I'm gonna tell you so cold. They can even give you the Noah story, right? The Noah, give you the Ham, Shem, and Japheth story. And then what they're really doing, they're showing you the 70 nations, right? City kingdoms, right? 70 city kingdoms. These are the sons of Noah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And then you see it starts off with Japheth, small portion, 14 city kingdoms. Then you see Shem is second in control as far as numbers is concerned. He got like 26 city kingdoms. And then you see Ham got the biggest portion with 30 city kingdoms. But look, as time go along, Ham, who starts off the race with the most city kingdoms and, you know, nations, etc., he's being chopped off at the leg every time you see it. Because he lose Libya, he lose Canaan. That's just in the book. And then you come up to today's time. Ham, which was given like Africa and certain parts of Arabia, he has today none of Arabia. He don't got Egypt no more. He don't got Monaco no more. He don't got Mauritania no more. He don't got Algeria no more. He's constantly, you see that the Hamites are constantly losing land to who? Japheth and Shem. They are magnifying why Ham is decreasing. But it's a play in that. It's a play in that. And the remedy, it ain't, oh, we the real Semites. No, bro. The remedy ain't we the real Jews. No, they're taking black land. They're not giving black land. They're taking black land. Semites have a system of how to take black man. The so-called white man is helping them. Semites is taking black land. The so-called white man is assisting. Look, check this out. Because this is something that we have to pay close attention to. Man, there was a guy, beloved, in our village. His name was Rudolph Windsor, I believe his name was. It still is. I'm not sure if he's still here or he made his transition. He delivered a book to us back in the day. It was called From Babylon to Timbuktu, right? Okay, when you read that book From Babylon to Timbuktu, he kind of gives this thing that the Israelites was central in Israel and Judah, southern and northern kingdom, pardon me. And then, of course, the invasion came in, and all the Israelites, black Israelites, they ran into Africa, you dig? And from Africa, they made their migration from Egypt, and they cut all the way through, and they ended up being in West Africa. Then they was taken and brought to the Americas, right? Okay, very powerful book, good information. The only thing about it is that when Bishop Nathaniel was interviewing the author of Babylon to Timbuktu, he asked him, have you ever been to West Africa? Have you been to Mali? You been to these places? Because he wrote about this kind of stuff. He provided the information. And Rudolph Windsor say, no. I've been to South Africa, but I never, this is him speaking. I've been to South Africa, but I never even been to West Africa. To me, beloved, that should have been a red flag. How did you get all this information if you never been there? That's almost like me writing some information about LA gangs. And I'm telling you about the Bloods and the Crips and Grape Street. And I'm just going down the line of how everything worked. The 60s and this and that. And you say, well, V, you been out to LA? I said, nah, I've been to St. Louis. I ain't go to LA. You would say, well, how did you write all this information about this gang? You never even been there. Who did the field research for you if you ain't been there yourself? I'm telling you something without telling you. All these founding fathers that began this Hebrew Israelite information, began spreading it in the ideology, it should be weird to you that they all went to white Jewish colleges first. And then they come with the spin and they come with information, but you don't research the person that's giving information to you. They're running a play. The unfortunate thing about us, we do not know how to look 100 years down the line. We don't know how to look 200 years down the line. They use this information, these ideologies, these religions to keep us split up so they can come and take and conquer us, because we can't see ourselves as family because they gave us a different identity. That's why Haiti is like it is today. Because the so-called white man went there and he told the people in the quote-unquote Dominican Republic that, hey, over 50% of your ancestry is in Europe. And then he told the Haitians, over 50% of your ancestry is from Africa. They don't even think they're the same people. He played a, see, this is a trickster game. He does this now. He did the same thing. We spoke about this before. The so-called white men, the Germans, when they got to Rwanda. Even in Rwanda, which was the biggest genocide that our people was involved in modern times, we was tripped up by Bible talk. Germans came amongst two tribes, went to the minority tribe, the Tutsi, and told them, you guys are really not indigenous to Africa. Yeah, you live here. You've been living here for centuries, but you really a descendant of Ham. You're not a Negro. Negroes don't come from the descendants of Ham. They was running a Hamitic theory kind of game on our people in Rwanda. And what that eventually did was make one tribe turn on the other tribe and kill them. So you just have to be very careful when you're running around with this kind of information, because we're now looking down the line. Check this out. I'm going to say this and then we're going to close out. But again, I just want to point at these characters: Solomon, ruddy; David, ruddy; Esau, red; Adam, ruddy. Right? Just remember that. You got the information. But talking about Rwanda, it brings me to this, right? One of the points I was going to make with the Windsor game, what the guy Rudolph Windsor talking about from Babylon to Timbuktu is this. He centralized the Israelites and the Jews all being in Israel, and then it was an invasion came and ran them all out. But history doesn't bear witness that that's not so. It didn't happen like that. Even when you look at the Christians in the Jewish biblical text in the New Covenant, and you study that what they call Pentecost that occurred in the 2nd chapter of Acts. Pentecost, or the house, was in Jerusalem. You understand? And it is written that it was devout Jews from every nation under the sun. Yet those nations in the 2nd chapter of Acts, they were listed, right? I'm going to give you the modern version of those names, because you see the Parthians, the Medes, the Elamites, the Mesopotamia, the Judea, which is obviously the southern kingdom, Cappadocia, Pontus, Asia, Egypt, Libya, Cyrene, Rome, Crete, and Arabia. But I think we're missing something in that. Before 70 AD, before that remnant that was in that area was pushed out, because they really wasn't pushed out to 132, it's like 132, 140 AD. So they still had like another 70 years there. And then after that, Constantine, when it got to like 300 something AD, he was making laws that that the Jews' rights had to be limited, because they was just, of course, they were citizens of. But look, that's not the point. This is the point I want to make. Devout Jews came from every nation to Pentecost. The nations that was listed, beloved, was what we call today Iran, the Medes, which is in northern Iran, the Elamites, which is southwest Iran, Mesopotamia was listed. That's called Iraq today. Of course, the southern kingdom was listed, but Cappadocia is Turkey today. Pontus is northeast Turkey. Asia is Asia Minor. That's self-explanatory. But Phrygia is Turkey. Pamphylia is also Turkey. So these devout Jews, they're not coming from deep Africa. Even when you see those that come from Egypt and Libya there, we already know that Libya and Egypt, even in that time, it wasn't black Libya no more. It wasn't black Egypt no more. Cyrene is a place that Jews came from. Cyrene to Pentecost. They in Jerusalem. That's a Greek city in Libya in North Africa. Rome was there. That's self-explanatory. Rome is Italy. Crete, that's a Greek island. We talking Greece in Europe. And Arabian is self-explanatory. We call it today Saudi Arabia. So in other words, beloved, even in Acts, because our Hebrew Israelite brothers need to hear this, and even some Nation of Islam brothers with this whole Jew is real black kind of hustle they running, and the black Christian community that's kicking this, yeah, it was some, the Jews is real. No. They're Semites, bro. They have been, they always been. But before Rome really went in there, black booted 70 AD, tore down the second temple. Before that even happened, in Pentecost, devout Jews, there was Arabian Jews and Roman Jews and Egyptian and Asian and Turkish Jews and Iraqi Jews and Iranian Jews at Pentecost. It was no Ethiopian, Beta Israel, tribe of Dan. then some Limba and some some Nigerian Jew Congo. They didn't make it. Obviously, it must have been some kind of system where these devout Jews was in Jerusalem and they showed what nation they was coming from. And Great Zimbabwe didn't make it. Ghana and Mali and Songhai didn't make it. I can't make it up. You can go read the 2nd chapter of Acts yourself and research the lands that the Jews was already living in before the Second Temple was knocked down, AD 70, AD 63 to AD 70. That got to open up our eyes, beloved. Okay, so why would we be surprised today if some Jews say they was Arabian Jews, and they was Roman Jews, and they was Turkish Jews, and Iraqi Jews? Why would we be surprised to hear that term today, and they was around in Acts chapter 2, according to the book that you read, that you subscribe to? Even John doubled down on it. Everybody talks about Revelation. John wrote to 7 churches. All 7 churches with believers was in Turkey. He didn't write to no churches in Congo. Man, Ethiopia, brother, they got the oldest church. They didn't get a letter. No, they didn't get a letter. 7 churches in Turkey. And look, this is something I got to point out. I'm glad I thought about that, because now I'm going to speak on this. Man, I'm so tired, beloved, of our people running around with this. Because in one of the 7 churches, one of them was Philadelphia. And, the Messiah was praising those that was in Philadelphia because they kept his word and they kept his name. And then there's a part when he's speaking to the Philadelphia church that is in Turkey, he says, behold, it's something to the extent of some Jews, there's some that say they are Jews and are not, but they are in the synagogue of Satan, right? Okay, how many of us heard an Israelite say that, a black Christian say that, a Nation of Islam member say that? How many of us heard that? Nah, that's the part that they say. This is the part that they do not say, that your brother gonna tell you. When they was identified by the Son of Mary, and this is in John, writing to the 7 churches, right? When these group of people in the Philadelphia church who say they were Jews, and they were not, they were liars out of the synagogue of Satan. I forget exactly how that verbiage go, but that was the indictment that was laid on them, right? But here was the remedy. We talk about the indictment, we never talk about the remedy. The remedy was, behold, I will make them, this is the fake Jews in Philadelphia, come and worship at thy feet. This was the believers that was really walking at the beginning of that verse, that was keeping the word and keeping the name, and to know that I love thee. That's the end of that. It didn't say those that are fake Jews, they're liars at the synagogue of Satan, you're going to go off one day and you're going to control the banking system, or you're going to go off one day and you're going to be an imitation of the real black Jews, or you're going to... No, it don't say that. It was a remedy behind the indictment. I know that there are Jews that say they're Jews, but they are not. Where are the people that say they are Jews and they are not? Were they the ones back that came to Pentecost, the Arabian Jews and the Romans, and the Jews that came from Turkey and the Jews that came from Iraq and Iran? No. The ones that was in the Philadelphia church is who he's talking about. One location. That's the one location of people that said they were Jews and they were not. But what was the remedy that the Son of Man had for them that was doing that? He's going to make them fake Jews bow at the real believers' feet. That was going to be their end. So we can't take that one little piece, and I'm saying we loosely, because that ain't my get down, and take that and run all the way around and say, man, all these dudes that do this, that, and the third, they fake. No, that ain't what that book say, man. That's the thing about our people. We always over seasoning something. We always, man, we supposed to, the ingredients say just put a pinch of sugar in there. And you shaking up the sugar, you throwing it up in there, and you throwing the seasoning, the salt. Man, you're like, man, you put way too much. You putting way too much on that. You putting way too much on that, beloved. The Bible is a black history book. Beloved, it's not. It's not. If it doesn't fit, shout out to Johnny Cochran, right? Peace be upon him. If the glove doesn't fit, if it doesn't fit, you must have quit. Stop trying to push yourself on these people, culture, and identity, and that ain't you. You running around, this is our people, with this Deuteronomy story. And man, if I wasn't raised in the church, it probably would work on me too. Because I used to be interested. I thought this was some, like, very entertaining information. They got the Deuteronomy 28:68. They flip-flopped on me. We talk about the Hebrew Israelites. When the curses, when Yahweh was giving the blessings and curses, right? If you do this, I'm with you. If you don't do this, he talking to the Israelites, I'm gonna be against you. This is before they making a contract. Moses is kind of like broken a deal. You dig? Whether he was putting together a good deal or a not so good deal, that's not for me to say. But some of the stuff that, you know, I was like, but even that, because it's a message in that. The message is this: if the deity give you the law, right, and the Christians need to hear this part, because this is what they're skipping when they talk about Deuteronomy. When you create law, you create a system, right? So being that Yahweh gave Moses the law to give to the people, when they was ironing out their contract, he provided before them the blessings and then the curses. And if they wasn't keeping the law, they was going to fall underneath the curses. Because the law is constructed in this congregation, the Hasatan works as the prosecutor right next to Yahweh in this establishment now. Did you catch that? That's why the Christian and the Jew ain't on the same page. See, the Hasatan is a part of the heavenly court. He's not outside of the court. Because Yahweh gave him a law. He gave it to Moses. Moses gave it to, they went over it back and forth. Then it was like, they agreed. It was like Moses, 70 elders. They killed some kind of animal. That, you know, these Semites now. They sprinkling blood over the folk. They got a whole little ritual that they did with that. That's what made the contract official tissue. Now it's law. Now you got law. So in law, maybe I should say this way. When you go downtown to and you in the judicial system, and you go down to the courthouse, you walk up in there, you see what? The judge is sitting on the seat. There's a prosecutor. The prosecutor is a representation of the state, is a representation of the law, right? Then you have on the other side the defense. You dig? And the defense is like your lawyers. The defense makes sure or try to find out a way where your punishment may not be severe, but he's trying to, that's if you're guilty, but he's trying to prove that you are innocent under the law. It's the prosecutor's job to show that you violated the law, you're guilty of the law, and therefore you should suffer the curse, but the judge sits on the seat, right? If the prosecutor is talking too much, the judge will say, order in the, he'll bang the gavel, he'll say, order in the court. But if anybody talking too much, he'll bang that gavel and say, order in the court. He's rebuking the prosecutor, or he's rebuking the y'all talking too much. You dig? Be quiet. The rebuke is to silence them. It's too much. But he's not throwing, because the prosecutor is part of the system. He's not outside of the system. He's part of the system. Okay, that means that the person that's sitting up, that's being accused of something, he agreed to this system. That's why they can judge him based on the system, right? Okay, that's that means there's no real devil now. That's why the Jew don't have this outside entity doing all this chaos, because it's a law-based system. He can only tempt you and put you towards and see if you're holding up to the law and see if he could push you to violate the law. But what is some of the law? If one of your laws is you can't blaspheme against God, then now you're given it's entities that have power to push you to the ledge to see if you will do that, to violate that, because there's the cursings that will come behind if you violate that. That means all your blessings and curses come from the same government. It's like a parental kind of like government now, because the same being that discipline you is the same being that got to bless you. The Christian don't got that. The Christian got an outside being that just do whatever he want to do. He got his own power, kingdoms, principalities. That Christian got some explaining to do. He got a whole lot going on over there. The Jew ain't got that. That's why when we talk about Jews on this podcast, we put them on, no, they're at the top of the totem pole. Because look, by definition, Israel is a man that is against, he wrestled with God and man. Israel is like, he's a, Israel is wrestling. I can't say it more than what his name is. He's the man that wrestles with God and man. That's more like a free man. He's going to do what benefits him. He going to wrestle with God and man. That's why we had one that come amongst us to teach us. He said Israel ain't no good name, because he's wrestling with God, but it's a freedom in Israel. That's not what it means to be a Christian. A Christian is somebody that follow. The Christian is a man that take pride in following another man. The Muslim is one that take pride in submitting to another man. One who already submitted. He ain't caved. That ain't what Israel mean. Different story for different day. Let me go back to the curses. In that curse, if they are violators of the law, right? If Israel is a violator of the law, that's what's coming. And part of what's coming is these curses is going to overtake you in your land first. And then they're going to follow you and pursue you. And then going back to Deuteronomy 28:68, it says what? And no man shall buy you. Stop. Because this is when you go and be servants, bondmaids, and bondmen. But the Hebrew Israelite would switch that up. He'd try to make you think, oh no, that means redeem. No, that's not what it means, bro. We got our own Strongs. Strong's 7069. That term, no man shall buy you, means they purchase you like cattle. That means like really buy you. That's why you know, beloved, that's not us. See, that's the trickster game. They turning our people to tricksters like them. So we can fit this kind of narrative. No. We don't fit that because our people were sold as bondmaids and bondmen. The curse of Israelites was saying, you're going to go into Egypt again. You're going to go in ships and no man going to buy you. That means you're going to belong to the system. The black man and woman in captivity, we didn't belong to the system. We belonged to the owner. And the owner was a product of the system. He went off a code. They all got together in the General Assembly and they made it up. We was underneath an apartheid system, not a lineage-based system. We was underneath an apartheid skin-based, color tone, kind of like, that's what we was underneath. But we were sold, we were purchased like cattle because we could only do a job according to our skill set. It wasn't lineage-based. It was apartheid system based on your skill set, meaning like when our forefathers or foremothers, they went to the cotton fields. they were sold. Their contract was specifically tied in to the contract of cotton, the contract of tobacco, the contract of sugar, the contract of rice, real field hands. But then we had other numerous people from our village had skilled trades. The contract was tied into a blacksmith. So when you're auctioned off, you're being auctioned to be a blacksmith. You're being auctioned to go into carpentry. You're being auctioned to go into masonry. And then the sisters, right? They're being auctioned off. They're going into domestic service, right? They get sold to Master Williams. They're cook. They get sold. They do cleaning. They get sold. They just nurse the children, raise white folk children. You understand what I'm saying? And then that continued all the way up to like urban settings where we were sold specifically like cattle just to work on railroads, just to do docks, just to do factories, just to, build roads and bridges, etc. I can keep going down the line. That's not us fulfilling that verse because, see, the Israelites, when Rome, check it out, because this is history, beloved. And all you need is a map. It's not hard. Rome was already in power. Okay, it was a revolt, 70 AD. Okay, boom, they came. They smashed up the second temple. You dig? But the prisoners of war was sold. The Israelites that was called then was sold into slavery. Keep in mind, we already went over nations. The Jews was already living in anyway. So when they were sold into slavery, going back to Rome, Rome is Italy. How do you think they got there to go back? Look, because this is not hard. Just think about it. How do you think when the Roman soldiers caught them and Rome is in control of all these city kingdoms that's all the way around? I mean, it's like it's a horseshoe almost going back to Egypt. But when the Israelites was captured, they was pulled and pushed out and brought back to their home base of Italy to be slaves. They got there on a boat, bro. They took them on the Mediterranean Sea and took them there as a boat. They was in prison to the system. That's why even Yahweh bringing out the prophecy, he's saying, hey, you're going to go back to Egypt or bondage again in ships. Now, Josephus said they really did. Someone go to Egypt. But I'm just pointing a picture that, no, they belonged to the system when they was enslaved. No owner didn't own them. Meaning it was no need for them to get on the auction block and just be sold because no man gonna buy you. You belong to the system. This is lineage based. This is just y'all. Ain't nobody else going through that. The closest we could connect ourselves to that example, beloved, would be the penal system in America, where nobody buys our people when they go down to but they belong. Men and women belong to Michigan Department of Corrections, California Department of Corrections, Kentucky, Department, the DOCs, all. Nobody's buying you. You belong to the system. You going to work doing that slave labor, getting paid nothing or getting paid pennies. But at this time, we know the Israelites got paid nothing. They were slaves to the system that fulfilled the point of nobody going to buy you, meaning you're going to be subject to those who have you. You're gonna be belonging to their system. That wasn't our reality. So stop acting like nobody got on this, like only black folks ever got on the slave ship. Man, all kind of people got put on slave ships. When the Portuguese came to the Americas, well, let me say it this way: when Gaspar Corte-Real came to the Americas, and he got the Beathawk Indians and he took them back to Europe as slaves. He sold them as slaves. He didn't sell them to no system. He sold them to owners. When you get the Barbary slave trade, this is when the Arabs, the Semites went into Europe and they snatching up people and they capturing them and they selling them off to different ports in North Africa. They went to owners. Even when the coolies, check this out, when the British did that fake deal with the coolies in East India and they put them East Indians on that ship and they brought them to the Americas. Some on the East Coast, like Maryland, the DMV area, then dropped the rest off in the Caribbeans. They went to owners. They were bought. When you get there, somebody bought you. You went on an auction block, they bought you. But we're going to end with this. The prophecy was nobody by you. I got my own Strong's Concordance, beloved. 7069 and strong mean purchased like cattle. That take us off. No, we don't fit that. We was purchased like cattle. The only people that was not purchased like cattle was the Jews. And when Rome popped them and ran in and completely, they came in and they took them as, man, Rome, if I told the real truth, Rome been taking them Jews as prisoners of war, as back to Rome as slaves ever since 63 BCE. They've been doing that. Before the Son of Man got here, after the Son of Man got here, man, them folk been on ships running back to Rome and getting... Boy, you better learn your history. Learn your history so you can know others' history. But they fit that, beloved. We don't. And beloved, we're going to leave it there. We're going to leave it there. Peace and black power to your family. Yes. We got to kill that noise that Bible was black. That ain't none of our history. Until next time, this is Real Black Content Fun Podcast. Hey, man, this is Brother V, man. I'm going to get it with you guys later. Peace, beloved, and more peace.
There's a natural drift towards Africanism, African spirituality, because we are dealing with post-colonialism, although it's neo-colonialism. But now people are going back to their African roots. People are going back to their African identity, African philosophy, African spirituality. But that itself, it is suffering commercialization.
Commercialization.
You understand?
And Christianization.
And Christianization in the process. And vulgarization.
And vulgarization.
You're going to have a lot of people who are tired of Westernism, Judeo-Christianity, who are now gravitating towards African spirituality. So we'll come up with many things. Some will be still searching for the Christian God in Africa. So even when they search, you get to find out through the framework of anthropology that all the women all over the world, they originate from one woman. Actual Times magazine of 1994 did that. That they did placenta analysis. There was a doctor in America called Dr. Rebecca Ken. She did a placenta analysis of more than 140 women, different women, just to determine the common origin of all females. Now, this is within the framework of mtDNA, mitochondrial DNA. So they did the placenta analysis. And then they came to a conclusion that all the women you see today in the world, they originate from one woman from Central Africa about 300,000 years ago. Now, when they write that in the Time magazine of 1994, they said the African Eve. So they biblicize African knowledge now. This woman is 300,000 years ago. According to theology, I studied theology in Ethiopia with the Orthodox Church. Adam was created around 4004 BC. On the 26th of October, 4004 BC,
4004
right?
BC.
Which makes him 6,000 years old. So which makes Eve 6,000 years old. Now you take a woman who was 6,000 years ago. You make a prototype of a woman who existed 300,000 years ago. Now you say this African woman who is 294,000 years older than Eve is the African.
Thanks for listening. Remember to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Google, Anchor, Spotify, and Facebook. Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment on the podcast. Your opinion of what you just heard is important to the platform. So yes, beloved, your comments are the engine and fuel to the machine. Stay blessed and have a powerful day.